Joining us now on the John Fredericks Radio Network is former candidate for Lieutenant Governor Bishop E.W. Jackson, expected right now to make a big announcement. Bishop Jackson, great to have you, sir.
Well, John, it's always a pleasure to be with you, and you and I have been talking quite frequently here in the last couple of months, and
Yes.
I promised you that when I had a final decision that yours would be the first media program I would do to talk about that decision. And so, yes, John, after many, many weeks, in fact, some months of thought and prayer, as of today, at 10 a.m., at that is really going to be a sort of a rally for my friends and supporters, just a small group of friends to come together. Some press will be there, but I will be announcing that I am a candidate for the United States Senate in Virginia.
Okay, so you are an official candidate running for the 2018 Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate in Virginia. Now, there's two people already in the race. Corey Stewart, who is the favorite, lost narrowly to Ed Gillespie for the Republican gubernatorial nomination. And on Friday night at the Republican Advance of Virginia, the Republican Party of Virginia's advance at the Homestead Hotel in Hot Springs, House of Delegates member Nick Freitas got into that race. So you would be the third person in this race. On Friday, Jerry Falwell from Liberty University gave his full-throated backing to Corey Stewart. How does that affect the E.W. Jackson base?
Well, first of all, let me say I talked to Jerry, and we had a good conversation. And I think basically what happened here is that, Corey announced as soon as he lost the primary, Jerry was a little regretful that he hadn't supported him in the primary and felt that, he owed him a little bit of grace and decided that he would go ahead and endorse him. But here's what he told me, and he said that, he'll say this publicly, that it's not his endorsement of Corey Stewart. Is not to say that he does not like or would not support E.W. Jackson. It's just that Corey got there first, and he was in very early, and he made a decision. But I'm going to be speaking at Liberty, and we're going to be vying for those votes. I mean, I like Jerry Falwell, admire what he's doing, but he's only got one vote, and everybody else is going to have to decide for themselves who they want to vote for. So we have a good relationship. And I will be speaking at Liberty, and I think he promised me he would make it clear that he doesn't have a problem with E.W. Jackson, that either one of us he thinks would make a great U.S. Senator. He was mainly trying to stop the possibility of an establishment Republican taking that nomination. So it's great. I figure, look, I've been through this before, right? And I've run against Corey Stewart before. And I figure, the people who've already jumped in on his side they're my friends. They just moved a little too early, and they'll still be my friends after I've won the nomination.
Okay, I'll buy that. I mean, I understand where Falwell's position is, but, I think one of the key elements here is you have to be able to galvanize the evangelicals of the Republican Party in Virginia to be viable. Wouldn't you agree?
John, I don't think Jerry Falwell is going to prevent me from doing that, not one iota. Remember, I am an evangelical. I am a pastor. I'm going to be in churches all over this Commonwealth. In fact, I'll tell you the truth. I believe not only do you have to galvanize them, I think you've got to get them to turn out in an unprecedented way. And I don't think that any candidate in this race is capable of doing that other than me. So I'm not bothered by it. I'm sincere about this, not just trying to be politically cute. I'm not bothered by that at all. I think my superior candidacy when it comes to evangelicals is going to be quite plain.
EW, let's talk about money. I mean, as difficult as this conversation is today in politics, whether it be social media, advertising, or anything else, you've got to have the dollars to be able to run a viable campaign. Corey Stewart, no doubt, has a fundraising base. He was able to raise a decent amount of money when he ran for governor. He's also the chairman of the Prince William County Board of Supervisors. So he's got that fundraising base of many developers in the area. You don't have that. How are you going to be able to compete with Stewart financially, sir?
Well, let me say this, John. People may not be aware of this, but after I won the nomination for lieutenant governor, I raised in whatever that 4 or 5 month period about $1.3 million. I'm no fundraising slacker. I'm not concerned about being able to raise the money. We've already begun. The money is coming in. I think we'll be just fine. There are PACs out there. Of course, they're not coordinating with me, but my understanding is that they too are having success when they present to people, look, we believe that the guy who is best suited to win a general election against Tim Kaine is E.W. Jackson. They explain why. That he's a Marine, he can appeal to veterans, he's black, he can peel off some black votes, and he's an evangelical. The key constituency for winning statewide is getting these evangelicals to come out in a major way. The numbers are there, but the people aren't coming out. And I think when they present that case, they're finding people saying, you know what, that makes sense. So believe me, we're starting a little bit behind because, of course, my friend Corey is a perennial candidate. I mean, he just runs for everything that moves. But so I'm starting a little bit later than he is because I had other business to take care of. But I'm not concerned. I think we'll catch up and have all the resources that we need to run an effective primary campaign.
E.W. Jackson, other than style, I know that style could be an issue in this campaign, but give our listeners, E.W. Jackson, some key policy differences between yourself and Corey Stewart.
Well, we're still looking at Corey's background, but I'll tell you what my understanding is on some of the issues that I think are going to present a problem for him, and where there are differences between me and him. I think, number one, my understanding is that Corey has never seen a tax or an increase in spending in Prince William County that he hasn't liked. That he's been very effusive and very willing to spend taxpayer dollars there. I am a fiscal hawk. I mean, I just think I'm incensed by the fact that Congress is spending our taxpayer dollars to pay off women for the dalliances of representatives in Washington, D.C. I mean, it's abominable. So I think that that's going to be a difference in a difference in substance. I think he may try to make it a difference in style, but I think that's a difference in substance. I think the other thing is, look, I think there's some issues with regard to the differences in our understanding of the threat of radical Islam and Sharia law. My understanding is that Corey has had some dealings with some of the members of the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, if that proves to be the case, then we're going to clearly draw that distinction, because I just believe that the Muslim Brotherhood, as we saw in Egypt, is a threat to our constitutional governance. It's a threat to any free republic, and that we ought to be dealing with it appropriately. I mean, I think we ought to declare the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. And so we'll see whether Corey goes along with that. So there probably will be other things as we, do the research to figure out, just what positions he's taken. But that's just a couple of them.
Well, one thing he said that his backing for that mosque, he said he didn't have any other option illegally, that this county would have been embroiled in a very expensive lawsuit had he not done that. But then other people have said, really, that was not true. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll find out, and we'll be debating it and talking about it, and people will have to make their own determination as to who they believe. I will say this: I think one has to be very, very careful about making decisions on the basis of who's supporting you and where money is coming from, as opposed to making decisions on the basis of the interests of those who send you into office to represent them. And I think, here again, that's going to be a potential issue for him.
Republican House of Delegates member Nick Freitas got into the race on Friday. He'll be with me. How do you see his entry? I mean, it's now a three-way race. So with Nick Freitas in, what is legitimately here E.W. Jackson's path to victory?
Well, here again, now, from what I'm understanding, I think Nick is going to appeal to, in fact, I've been told at least that Mitch McConnell has already summoned him. So I think that Nick he may end up being the establishment choice. So that, obviously I'm not likely to be that unless by default. That's one thing. I think the second thing is, he'll appeal to some libertarians. I am not a libertarian. I mean, I think every American who cares about the Constitution has a certain libertarian streak. But I know Nick. I like the guy, and it'll be a friendly competition, and we'll see who the voters choose ultimately. So, but I think my pathway is going to be somewhat different than his.
We're with the Bishop E.W. Jackson, who has just officially announced his campaign for the U.S. Senate in 2018. That'll be decided in at least a three-way primary now. Two other candidates in it, former gubernatorial candidate Corey Stewart and House of Delegates member Nick Freitas. Also, former governor Jim Gilmore, rumored that he might get in, but I find that right now doubtful. So I think it'll be the three that are in now who will be fighting it out. So, EW, getting to be the Republican nominee is step one. Obviously, if you are nominated, and by the way, we believe this will be a primary in probably June of 2018.
It's going to be a primary. It's going to be June 12th unless something dramatic happens.
Okay, so let's say you win. How does any Republican beat Tim Kaine in 2018? I mean, he'll spend $150 million if he needs to. I don't see, how does anybody beat him?
Well, always remember, John, boots beat bucks. Now, money does matter, obviously, but there comes a certain point of diminishing returns. You can spend all the money in the world, but if you don't have the hearts of the people, you cannot win. And we've seen that again and again in elections. So that's not going to be determinative. I think that Tim Kaine has got a problem because running with Hillary Clinton as vice president diminished him, because I think people got a chance to get a good look at him, and they saw that he's basically a lightweight. They saw that there's no there, that he really is little Timmy Kaine. I mean, it's just not a person of gravity. And we need somebody who was a fighter in the U.S. Senate. Plus, he spent all his time fighting the president. I mean, he doesn't seem to have any center of gravity for himself other than his opposition to the policy of the president. What is he doing for the people of Virginia? The Democrats claim to be for the people, but I don't see that they've done anything for the coal miners in Southwest Virginia. I don't see they've done anything for the people in the inner cities who are suffering from crime and violence and poverty and lack of jobs. I don't see that he's done anything to improve the economy of Virginia. So as far as I'm concerned, he can raise all the money in the world. We'll raise enough money to get our message out. We turn out evangelicals. There are enough evangelicals, and this is going to be my message in part, John. There are enough evangelicals and conservatives in the Commonwealth of Virginia that if we would actually register and vote, we would not lose statewide elections. I don't care what the liberals turn out. And then I'm going to peel off some black voters, because I'm going to tell them that, they ought to be tired now of these liberals sweeping in at election time to tell them how racist the Republicans are and doing absolutely nothing to improve the education of their children, the safety of their communities, the economic or entrepreneurial spirit in those communities to try to create some jobs and some economic activity. And so these liberals run around talking about, this is terrible with the prison pipeline. But they're the ones who create the pipeline by perpetuating poverty and crime and degradation with these welfare policies and these other things that they've done over the last 60 years. So I'm going to go after that black vote hard and ask people to take a second look, not at me as a Republican, but as me as a black minister who cares about what happens in the black community.
How do you stand on the president's decision to move the United States consulate in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem?
John, I am so proud of my president. I really am. I mean, it is such a breath of fresh air for me after having spent 8 years in the wilderness, so to speak, watching a president do everything that I objected to and everything that I thought was destructive of our country, and now to have a president who is actually keeping his word. Now, isn't that a novel idea? And recognizing our most important ally in the Middle East and the reality, the historical and spiritual reality that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. I tell you, if you don't mind my saying, when I heard it, I said, praise God. So I'm elated by it.
Okay, no question. Look, that was a major decision he made. A lot of other presidents promised it. They actually didn't follow through on it. This president did. As far as the Republicans' tax bill, if you were in the Senate right now, what would be the E.W. Jackson position on that?
Yeah, I would vote for it. I mean, look, it doesn't have everything I'd like to have. I mean, one of my pet peeves is I think the estate tax is immoral. I think it is an absolute governmental thievery to take what people have earned all their lives and claim government has some right to take a portion of it because you die. I mean, to me, that's preposterous. So it doesn't have everything I'd like to have in it, but I think the president has negotiated probably the best deal he can get right now. And so, we'll take the reduction in the corporate income tax. We'll take what I consider to be a fairly modest but helpful reduction in middle class taxes, and we'll keep working at it. I think this president is not done. I think he'll do what he can do right now, but I think if we can get some more people in the U.S. Senate to help him, I think we can get more done in the remaining time of his first administration.
Okay, that's it. We're out of time. For more information, what is your website?
EWJackson.com. EWJackson.com. The website is up, and people can go to it, and they can find out about our candidacy and what we're up to. And I'm pretty sure by the time they get to it, they'll be able to donate as well.